It's an honor to be here. Excited to be sharing Zoom space with all of you. For many of you, again, after our time together for the high holidays, or if you're new to this series, welcome. We're going to have some fun tonight exploring ways that you can bring Hanukkah to life with your grandchildren through play and imagination. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can see some slides to make it a bit more visual. And I'll come out of screen share when I demonstrate some of the activities a bit later. So as you heard a bit about my work, I love connecting the dots between the performing arts and Jewish education and finding ways that we can use the creative arts to inspire kids and families through the holidays and through all of Jewish tradition. So the first thing I'm going to ask, if you haven't already, you got an email from Terry reminding you, if you'd like to play along tonight with some of the activities that we'll be creating, you'll need some things that you can hopefully find around the house. Some building materials. Now, this is a list of ingredients. You don't need all of them. So if you have tinfoil around, if you have paper and newspaper, maybe some tape, stacking cups, other building supplies, if grandchildren left some Legos laying around, or anything you can stack, could be a stack of pens. You'll see how we'll use them in a bit, and we'll get creative. You may have other ideas, but if you have these things around near you, grab them now. Because we'll be using them to play along in a little bit. I will be using tinfoil, so that's my material of choice that's right near me right now. And today we'll give a little bit of an overview of Hanukkah. We'll introduce the Jewish Grandparent Network Hanukkah Discovery Kit, which was created for you to use with your grandchildren and your families for the holiday, offering a lot of ideas and activities, some of which we will explore tonight. And I'll be sharing some ideas that are in the kit, expanding on them, doing some demonstration, and most importantly, getting you to play along. And then we'll think about ways that you can use some of these ideas in your own homes or virtually with your grandchildren if you are away and through a screen. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is, for yourself, think about the most vivid memory you have of Hanukkah from when you were a child. And if you didn't celebrate Hanukkah as a child, another holiday that's celebrated around this time of year. As we know, this time of year is filled with many different celebrations and traditions that are the through line is bringing light to the world and lighting candles or filling our homes with light. So what's a vivid memory of your celebration of Hanukkah from when you were a child? What comes to mind? Take a moment to think about that, and anything that comes to mind, drop them in the chat so we can fill our Zoom space with some of your responses. So I'm seeing a lot of responses about the smell of latkes, a gift each night, sitting on the floor and opening gifts, beautiful smiles as the candles were lit in the window, turning the lights out after we lit the candles. A miniature brass Hanukkah menorah, helping shred the potatoes for the latkes. A lot of these are rich with sensory experience, thinking about the smells and the tastes and the sights and sounds of the holiday. So as we bring those memories back, we're thinking about how we're creating those memories with our families this year, what we want our children and our grandchildren to get out of Hanukkah now, today. And so here's another question just to be thinking about, and we'll explore this throughout the webinar tonight. How can you find ways to connect to the holiday with your grandchild beyond giving presents and lighting candles? What are the ways that we can activate the themes and ideas and the stories of the holiday that go beyond the things that we maybe typically associate with Hanukkah, and making it more creative and more engaging and increasing impact? So let's hold on to that question as we explore together. So We want to quickly introduce the Discovery Kit, which is free for you to use. It is already up online. I know we're going to drop it in the chat. This kit offers hopefully easy to follow instructions, activity ideas that you can use either using it on the computer, printing it out, and being able to pick up one or all of the activities and using them with your grandchildren. The activities are designed for 3 to 8 year olds. With some that skew younger and some that skew older, and they can definitely be adapted for other ages, and we'll talk a bit about that as we work through the and explore tonight. The kit is divided into 3 sections. So the first section really digs into the story of Hanukkah. For many of us, this is not a story that we're super familiar with. We know that many of us know the rituals and the traditions of Hanukkah more than we're really familiar with the why. Something that I'm really passionate about is thinking about how, even at a very early age, we can introduce the stories behind our traditions, because I think story is a really powerful vehicle for young people to make some of these things stick. So we're not just lighting the menorah, but we know why we're lighting it. We know why we are eating foods that are fried in oil. And we know the meaning behind it, obviously, in an age-appropriate way. And that's what we'll get into next. So coming out of the story, the second section being customs and rituals, learning about the customs of Hanukkah and bringing them to life in creative ways. And then third, a section around standing up for our values, one of the themes of the story, thinking about how you can be a Maccabee, using that idea of being a Maccabee in your own life and in your community, and standing up for what you believe is right and advocating for freedom for everybody. Okay, so we're going to go over a little bit of a crash course on the story of Hanukkah. This is the adaptation that we've offered you in the kit. We've also offered a link if you're interested in some of the history behind this story and the legend that comes from the book of Maccabees as well as the Talmud. But we've offered you here an age-appropriate version that you can share and explore with your grandchild. So it goes something like this. One day long ago, a man named Judah Maccabee was walking through the marketplace when suddenly he heard a big announcement from the Greek king Antiochus, who said, "I order the Jewish people to no longer celebrate their holidays, tell their stories, or follow their traditions." Judah saw the Greek soldiers knocking down the precious objects inside the Jewish holy temple, and the beautiful menorah, which usually shone brightly with light, was trampled to the ground. Judah ran home to his village to tell everyone what he saw. The Jewish people were hiding in their homes, afraid to show their true selves in public. They even invented a game called dreidel that they could play to fool the Greek guards if they were caught telling Jewish stories from the Torah. This isn't right. We should be allowed to be whoever we want to be. This is our home too. Everyone deserves the right to be free, Judah thought. Quietly in the night, Judah tried to convince the Jewish people to join his quest. One by one, the people joined him, and they became known as the Maccabees. They paraded down the street in protest, raising their voices together. And alone they were afraid, but together they were strong. The Maccabees made the Greek king change his mind, and they took back the temple. You'll note that we've changed the violence and war to protest in this version of the adaptation. A great miracle happened there. After raising the menorah, they found that there was only one small jug of olive oil left. The jug of oil would keep the candles burning for only one night, and it would take over a week to make more oil. But a great miracle happened. The light stayed burning for 8 nights, and Judah learned that if we join together in community, we can face any challenge. Everyone deserves to be free to shine their unique light for the whole world to see. So this is the adaptation we've offered you. There's a version of this in the kit that you can download and share and read. I want you to take a moment just to drop in the chat. What are the themes or ideas that you take from this story and the way that it was presented here that you'd want to uplift or share with your grandchild? Or what questions might you ask after sharing that story as ways to illuminate some of the ideas and the lessons that are in there? So I'll give you a moment to think about that. Love the theme of fighting for freedom. Great. Standing up for beliefs and not have to be like everybody else. Fantastic. How can we work together to make things right if we see that they are wrong? freedom to believe what you want to believe. Great, thank you. I'll also uplift just the idea of being proud to be Jewish at a time when there is anti-Semitism. It rings very true for me right now. This story is very, unfortunately, timely. And the idea of how we are proudly shine our light of feeling proud of who we are, despite there being those who, you know, don't feel that way about our rights. Okay. So taking that story, how can we bring it to life? How can we play with it and activate it in a way beyond just reading it or sharing it? So we've offered you, we explored at the High Holidays some shadow puppetry. For Hanukkah, we're looking at a technique of creating a box puppet theater. For this activity, we've provided a lot of the materials in the kit. And you'd need to provide a shoebox or a cardboard box. Any Amazon package box will work. Scissors and tape, crayons and markers, and then some either wooden chopsticks or straws. And I'll show you how all of those pieces fit together to tell a story. So show you. Okay, this is the template of the puppets that you can cut out that come with the kit. One for Judah, one for the king, the jug of oil, the menorah, and the group of Maccabees. And then you also have a backdrop that can be colored in and decorated. Both of these can be printed. And then here are some photos of my son using the kit and starting to bring it to life. And I'm going to stop screen share here to show you how it works. So here I've taken a regular shoebox. I've had my son decorate the backdrop, and we cut it out to fit on the back of the shoebox. And what I did was I took just a knife or a sharp scissor and cut out, not fully across, but just a little bit of a rectangle here so that I can reach inside. And I've taken the puppets and I cut them out. Get the king here, and I put them on, this is on chopsticks, just taped to the back. And so what I'm able to do is stand, I'm doing this on Zoom this way, but I would stand in front of it, put it through the top, and then I can manipulate the puppet from the top of the box theater on the bottom and move it across. And rather than just sort of gliding it, I can take the stick in my hand and just twist a little bit and give the puppet some movement to make it walk across my backdrop. If I had more than one person, one of us could hold the king and the other could hold, let me see if I can do it, the menorah. And we can act out moments of the story using our puppets. Now, some things to make this a little bit easier when I was experimenting and trying it with my son. Sometimes it's hard to be able to tell a story as well as operating puppets at the same time. So a really simple, fun, easy technique is to use your iPhone or a recording device. You can open up voice memo on your phone, works really well, and record you and your grandchild telling the story. So you can read it and they can add sound effects. You can decide in advance which lines they might read or how they might be Judah or the king in a certain moment, and practice that a few times and then record it on your phone. That becomes your soundtrack. Then you play the recording while you play with the puppets. So that way that you only have to then focus on the puppets, having them enter and exit when that part of the story happens. So when you hear your own voices saying, Judah came in and saw the menorah knocked down and walked across and saying that's not right, then you can act that out with your puppets. When he gathers the Maccabees together, they can walk across for the protest. And so it makes it a lot easier for you to act out the story, separating those components of the audio and the actual manipulation of the puppets. Okay, I'm just giving you a couple of other ideas. Taking it one step further, you can play with light and sound effects. So with light, again, we used this trick last time. Your iPhone flashlight is a fantastic flashlight. If not, you can use a simple flashlight or LED flashlight, but you can play with lighting it from the front or from above, which gives it a totally different look. You can also play with a sunrise or a sunset by moving your light around the box puppet theater. Something else I didn't try here, but you can try, is actually punching holes in the back of the box and having a light behind it, which would look like stars or could look like the lights of the menorah. So there's lots of ways to play and explore, and this is something that your grandchild can offer ideas for too. You don't have to come in having done everything. You can present all of these materials and play together to figure out how to bring the story to life. Another really fun technique that we tried when we were playing with this is actually filming it with your iPhone. So if you set up the iPhone, again, if you have another person while you're playing, you can create with your phone, which takes fantastic video, the exact frame of the puppet show and make a miniature movie, which does not require any editing or fancy equipment. You can do this all with your own phone and recording device. And then you can capture the story as something that your grandchild can watch over and over. Then they've made the story of Hanukkah. They've recorded the audio and created voice parts. They've acted it out with the puppets, and then they can watch the video that they've created of their show. And through all of these techniques, it's a way for them to think about the characters, bring the story to life, and then recall it and remember it over the course of the holiday. Okay, I'm going to pause there if anybody has questions about that particular activity. And of course, you can continue to drop questions in as we move through. But I just think tabletop puppetry is a great technique to be able to storytell. It gives agency to even the youngest child of being able to manipulate and look at the story from above in miniature. And this is a relatively simple way for them to be able to act out different parts of the story. Okay, great. I'm going to go back into screen share now. And this is going to be the moment in our workshop where I'm going to ask you to get those materials. So for this next activity, I'm going to give you a menorah maker challenge. So we're going to be creating the shape of the menorah using the materials that I've given you. And I'm not going to give you much more instruction than that. Think about the menorah, look at the menorah shape. The menorah with, or the Hanukkah in this case, has 8 branches with one taller branch as the shamash or the helper candle. That shamash can be in the middle, it can be off to the side, but you can use your materials to creatively make the sculpture of your menorah. This does not have to be a menorah that is actually lit, so you don't have to worry about the materials actually holding candles or fire, but you're recreating the shape of the menorah using any materials that strike your creativity. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of time to create, and we're going to go into gallery view so that we can see everybody working, maybe put on some music, and then don't worry about finishing. We'll see where you are in a minute when we are done with this quick menorah maker challenge just to try out the idea. And I'm going to mute so you don't hear my tinfoil.
To eat, and while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago.
Oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the horror. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. C'est vivant to play with and latkes to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Yeah! Oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the horror. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. C'est vivant to play with and latkes to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. remind us of days long ago.
One for each night
They shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago.
Okay, great. Thank you, Zoe, for that. I want to see some of these. Merle, I saw a fantastic menorah. If you want to hold up yours, that's amazing. Well done. I learned that it was much harder to work with tinfoil, so I ended up with 6. But it was a really fun building material. Paula, that's great. Can you hold that up again? Nicely done, Edna. These are great.
I don't have 8 yet. I needed more. I have more. I was going to run in the other room. Let me show you.
I love the
Amazing.
variety of materials. This is fantastic.
Karen, what is that made out of? Oh, amazing,
Building
Paula.
blocks, yeah. I needed to build it a little longer and a little higher for the 8 and the shamash.
They're yeah, just blocks and foil, I guess. These are
Amazing.
Wait,
that's
Lee
cute.
Hendler, you didn't just make that now. No way. Unmute. Who made this? What's it made of? Pens?
Yeah. Those
yes,
are
made it with
holders.
my grandchildren made it last year, and there's the hamash.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
It's a little bit hot. It's and they put the candles in. And
So the
pez
pieces are lying down.
Yep, the pez are all glued on, lying down.
Amazing.
Jonathan, for next year.
Yes,
For next
exactly.
year's kids.
And I
With
see
little like
Dale.
blankets on them. They can all be sleeping Pez.
That's
I-
right.
so
That's
cute.
why disturb them.
I love the way Dale used those bristle bricks, right?
Oh,
Those are
yes,
great.
yes.
And Renee, I see, amazing. And then Lynn, I saw you use tinfoil a different way. You sort of cut into it, right? Amazing.
Dale's is all Dale. What are those? What type of building blocks are those? I recognize them, but that's so
Yeah,
cool.
they look
Yeah,
like those
they're-
bristle blocks.
They're called bristle
Ah,
blocks.
nice.
Amazing. Well done, everybody. So as you see, it's a really fun activity, and I think one of the best parts about it is the creativity that your grandchildren might bring to it, just having an assortment of materials. The way I find this activity to be most successful is if you can have different buckets of different things, in front of them, and seeing how they use the different materials to make the shape. Looking at the object and then recreating it. It's a great a science, technology, arts exercise to be able to think about how to construct it, how to visualize, an object and rebuild it, and then what are the different ways that materials can be used to create the shape. And you can also, Terry had the great idea when we were working on the kit to also think about maybe food, that you can make an edible menorah and then enjoy it as a treat afterward. We were talking about graham crackers and pretzel rods and all kinds of ideas about how
Without
to,
the candles. Without the
Yes,
candle.
exactly.
Just,
without
just
the candles.
confirming.
Yes, again, do not try to eat your menorah at home or with with the candles or lighting them. But it's a great building and creative exercise that you can try this holiday. Okay, we're going to move into one more participatory activity. So the other activity I want to share, here's an image of my son building them with Duplos. He used the flower pieces. Someone was asking me the other day as the candle lights on the top from the Duplo set. Okay, so we're gonna look at a game called Dance the Dreidel. This is a way to make the dreidel game a bit more physical and active, and not just about what does it land on. So the 4 Hebrew letters on an American dreidel are Nes Gadol Haya Sham, Nun Gimel Hey Shin. Nes Gadol Haya Sham, meaning a great miracle happened there. And so looking at the shapes of those letters, those Hebrew letters, even for those who may not be familiar with Hebrew, those are the 4 letters that you find on each side of the dreidel. The game is to come up with dance movements or gestures for each of the letters with your grandchild. So we're going to just try that right now. I'm going to go out of screen share and we'll go back into gallery. And maybe somebody can give me a suggestion. This can be either inspired by the shape of the letter or the meaning of the word. Okay, so let's start with nes, meaning miracle. We could either create a movement or a gesture based on the shape of the letter. It could be based on a gesture that represents the word miracle, or it could just be a silly movement. Anybody have an idea for us? Yeah, Paula. Great. Okay, so let's all try.
Paula,
Let's
you
all
want to unmute yourself and tell us?
Oh, sorry. I just, whoa, wow, like the miracle. Yes. Ah.
Amazing. So let's
You
all
can
try
pick
that on
Yeah, you
three.
can try a verbal, whatever verbal you want with it.
That's great. 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Fantastic.
I love
and
the
then-
sound effect.
Yeah, I love the sound effects with it too. That's great. And now let's go to gadol, so meaning big or great. Again, it can be inspired by the shape of the letter or the words. Anyone have an idea?
Well, you could possibly do something with it just with the sound, gimel. So you could say, let's go. I don't know, make up a dance. We going. Am I making a fool of myself? You know,
No,
you know
that's
what
great. That's perfect. Okay, so let's try to put them together. Okay, so we're gonna go nes gadol, right?
Go.
Go. Yeah, amazing. Okay, now we have haya, happened. Any ideas for movements? Don't be afraid of being a little silly. Yeah, Zoe, you got one?
I was trying to figure out how to make a hay with my hands, but I don't think
I kind of liked what you were doing.
I was like,
That's great. That's great. Okay, so let's try to put the three together if we can remember them. So we've got nes, gadol, and then we've got haya, and then sham, meaning there. Great, Diana. We've got pointing. Yeah? Maybe we'll add one on each side. Okay? All right, let's put the whole thing together now. Are we ready? All right. We should have asked for music, Zoe, for this. Here we go. Okay. Nes, gadol, haya, sham. Nicely done. Thank you all for participating. Fantastic. So you can see variations on this game. You can create the 4 movements with your grandchildren or grandchild, and then as you spin the dreidel, whatever it lands on, you do that movement. For a younger child, you can just make that the game, right? I remember the movement corresponding to the letter, and that's complicated enough. For an older child, you can try to remember the pattern. So if we get, 2 nuns, a gimel, and then a hay, as we keep going, we're building onto the dance, right? And we're creating basically choreography. So it might be, nun, gimel, hay, right? And that's our dance. And then we can practice the dance or set it to music. We can put music on and repeat our dreidel dance. We can also spin faster and add more and more movement and see how many we can remember, kind of like that old game Simon, if you remember the game Simon and the pattern. There's all kinds of variations of this, but it's a way to physicalize and remember those letters and the words of the dreidel, not just make the game about spinning the dreidel or keeping, I can never remember, keeping the gelt, giving it away. It gives you a variation on how to play the game and make it a bit more playful and fun, and also maybe remembering the letters and the words because we've created gestures for them, which helps us kind of cement them.
Yeah, so Jonathan, I could see the little kids spinning around the room too, actually because we're all sitting in our seats,
That's
glued
right.
to our seats, but we could. May I just read you some of the really fun ideas that have popped up in chat?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of interest in these food dreidels. Helene says we've started making Rice Krispie treat menorahs. And I use, Helene says, I use a template and we add rainbow Twizzlers as the candles and icing as the flames. Very cool. And maybe this year make a dreidel instead. Lani says, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Lani. Is it Lani? Use sugar wafers in the bottom with Fruit Loops for candles stuck on together with candy jelly bean flames. I want that. Oh, and Diana has this good idea. It's kind of like David, Melech Israel. Hi.
I feel like all of these would make super cute virtual holiday greetings. Like if you videoed
I love that
any of
idea.
these and sent them out to family. That way it's something they can keep as opposed to like, you know, throw away like a card, because these are so lovely and
Mm.
adorable.
Love that. And you can also have, you know, if you're playing the game with music, you can have your grandchild, if they're, you know, on the older side, create the playlist for the music that you play for the you know, for your dreidel dance party. And again, it's just another way to activate it and play with them.
Or if they play an instrument, you could have them play.
Exactly.
Like, if you have multiple grandkids, you could have them play live. I bet they love performing.
Exactly. Okay, I'm going to go back into screen share here to share just a few more ideas with you. We've tried this before, a root vegetable latke fry. In the kit, I'm sure many of you have your own latke recipes. We also offered some simple ones in the kit. But here's an idea of basically making latkes out of different root vegetables, using carrots or beets or parsnips, in addition to potatoes or sweet potatoes, and having them as distinct. So you create latkes separately from those materials, and then do a taste test and see if your grandchild can, and you, with, you know, blindfolded, can figure out which vegetable made that particular latke. And you can have a bit of a, you know, a latke bar. It's a bit of a mess, but if you're up for the challenge, I know well that we have Edna on the call tonight, who cooks and bakes all the time with her grandchildren, and encourages those she teaches to make a mess in the kitchen with your grandchild. This is a great way to do that, and to create a root vegetable latke taste test. Or if you want, you can also mix them together and experiment with different combinations to see which are the most tasty that you can create. Another idea is thinking about how to a spin on the idea of giving gifts together, or to each other, and thinking about the gift of being together. So for this, this could be an activity that you do one of the evenings of Hanukkah. It can be something you do in advance, but basically brainstorming with your grandchild a list of activities that you could do with them, either during the holiday, that they would want to do with you, or you would want to do with them. Or you can extend that beyond over the next few months, things that you want to do together, places you want to visit, things you want to learn or teach each other. And if you'd like, you can design basically a coupon book of all of these activities. Either you can write them and they can draw pictures of them. You create the book, and then you can redeem these coupons to do the activities. So that's something that could be done for one night for each of the evenings of Hanukkah if you're spending more time, or as a thing you create on the holiday and then spread out over the course of the year, as a way to think about how do we give the gift of actually just being together, spending time together, learning things together, as part of the way we think about gift giving. And of course, there's lots of variations of how this could go. So if that sparked any ideas, would love to see some of those in the chat of ways that you can think about making an activity with your grandchild out of thinking about being together, and helping them think about experiences as gifts and what might they want to do with you or learn together with you, that you can use that as an option for gift giving during the holiday. And while you think of ideas on that, I'm going to move over to our next activity, which was that idea of I am a Maccabee. So we've thought about the idea of being a Maccabee as being a superhero in your community, in your family, in your own life. The idea of superheroes being an exciting one to many of our little kids, and thinking about how we can frame what it means to be a Maccabee through the lens of superheroes. So we've given you a worksheet or a template to play with in the kit that has an outline for you as the grandparent and an outline for the grandchild to think about yourselves as superheroes. So together, you can either do this together or separately and then share them, coming up with your own superhero name. What are your unique talents? And then whom do you protect? As a way to think about your role as a Maccabee superhero. So I think we should try this. We have a little bit of time. So take a moment to think just for yourself of how you are a grandparent superhero How are you a Maccabee superhero? What are your unique talents and who do you protect? And just take a moment to think about that. And you can drop your answers in the chat just as a way to brainstorm about this. And then obviously on this sheet, you can then color them in and design those 2 templates and characters.
Jonathan, could you repeat our assignment, please?
Yeah.
Your question.
Yeah. So just thinking about your role as what does it mean to be a superhero as a grandparent? How do you think about your role as a grandparent as being a superhero in the lives of your family? What are your unique talents? And who do you protect? And you'll see that on the screen. It might be small to see. Those are the questions that are on that Create Your Superhero Character worksheet. So you can think about, I love that. Dale says the name of her superhero is a super softa.
Just give us a minute, okay?
Yeah, exactly. No.
Ooh, I love super storyteller. Y'all are also welcome to unmute if you'd like to speak up. That would also be.
Yeah, that would be fun. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd love to hear some of these.
Beth, why B3 and P3? Is that just from your first names?
Beth, you want to unmute?
Yes. That's because that's what my husband came up with. So we have superhero capes from a Halloween party.
Oh, so you're seasoned superheroes.
Now you gotta understand, my grandson is only 2. So he's the only one we have, and we were 70. I was 70 when he was born. So he's not quite ready for some of these activities, even though he's in a synagogue-based preschool. What I'm thinking about is I will see if I can get the kit, make it in a shoebox and send it back with him to maybe use in his pre-K class.
Ooh, that's a lovely idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because it'll be sort of my gift back that he can show off.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're trying to think of how to adapt some of these for a slightly younger kid.
Yeah. I like I see a lot of nature themes from Paula and
Lee, do you want to tell us about your name? DH?
Hold on. Yes, I'm called Gromsy. And as my grandchildren are getting older, that sounds a little ridiculous to them. So now they call me the Groms, or just Groms for short, particularly the boys. And we just bring a lot of Jewish to whatever we're doing. And they think it's cool. They think it's fun, because that's what I try to make it. And not, I'm not lecturing, I'm not teaching. It's like, oh, did you know this? And so it works. It's nice.
David Raphael has a response for you, your co-founder. DeGrom, you should be a pitcher. David, God bless. David, tell us about Zadie.
Well, I actually do think being zany is a superpower, because I think that's one of the ways we make ourselves accessible to our grandkids and kind of, I don't know, make ourselves available and things are easy and my grandkids can relax with us and have fun. And my granddaughter, her constant phrase is, Zadie is silly, which I think is great.
That's fantastic, David. And one way to make this activity even zanier or sillier is to, once you have these written and you've thought about them and you've designed your costumes, you can actually create them out of stuff around the house. And I encourage you to let your grandchild design your costume and you design theirs. So they find towels or bed sheets or stuff in your closet and mix and match them, and they create your superhero outfit, and you create theirs. If you're doing this over Zoom, you could also go off on a scavenger hunt and bring things back and ask them what to put on, or you tell them what to put on, and try to create a physical version of your superhero outfit that you drew together. You can also explore the concept of heroes and trusty sidekicks. You know, are they the hero and you are their sidekick on the adventure, or the other way around? Thinking about what that means, how you how you support each other on adventures, and who takes the lead and who follows. Because there are times when you'll lead and they'll follow, and of course times where they take the lead and you follow their lead as you play.
And Jonathan, how might you link it to Hanukkah, to the Hanukkah story?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect segue out of the puppetry activity, or even if you just read the story. It's an accessible way to think about Judah Maccabee and what it means to be a hero and stand up for other people when it may be scary or hard, or when other people are telling how you're able to stand up for what you believe is right, and linking that to the idea of being a superhero. For an older child, you can then have a conversation about what does it mean to be a superhero today in our communities? What do people need, and how can we stand up for each other? And what does it mean to have freedom? We also give a list of questions and ideas in the kit around this idea of standing up for rights and what that means, as a way to have conversations, obviously with older kids, as a way to deepen the activity. But there are ways to skew that activity younger and older, depending on age and where the child is in terms of that conversation.
Jonathan, do we have time to jump back to your question about gifts, meaningful gifts?
Yeah.
Do we have time, or now?
No, we're
right?
actually right on to question and answer, and thinking about how to connect what we've shared tonight to ways that we can apply it to our own celebrations. Yeah.
I tell you why I'm asking, because in our Facebook group, somebody asked a question. The person asked, looking for Hanukkah gifts and she named, the age of the kids. And I noted that many people responded, and they were all physical gifts. I mean, there was a beautiful range. There was musical instruments, there was all kinds of books. And what might you respond as far as non-physical Hanukkah gifts, or different kinds?
Yeah, I mean, it's always, that question of getting something that may have a deeper impact, but not at the immediate surprise aha moment for the younger child. For example, like, we got my son, grandparents got subscription to a magazine that, when he first got that for Hanukkah, it was like, oh, okay, but then it became the best gift over the year, because it was something that we came back to and read together, and he couldn't wait till it came in the mail every month. And it was much more impactful than a toy he could have gotten, one of the evenings of the holiday. So, obviously balancing, depending on what your intention or reaction that you're looking for. But I think pushing toward experiences and things that you can do together or make together or experience can enrich not just the holiday itself, but beyond that. David has his hand up.
I was just going to say that when our kids were young and we were all together in the same place, at least one night we gave each other the gift of time, that we would make sure we would do something together. It could be going to a movie, going bowling, going to a show, going to the circus, whatever it is. But our children recognized that the time together, that we had fun, was the gift.
I've also seen a variety of almost like bingo cards, where you're introducing the idea of different categories of gifts, and they'll happen on different nights, but one of them is going to be an experience, and one of them is going to be a family game night, and one of them is going to be, so that you're seeding that in advance, that not, it's not going to be a physical object every night, and there are different ways to think about what a gift means. And then, you sort of search and find that on the board of what happens that evening. So it becomes a surprise of what it's going to be that night. I also know many families who have their children or grandchildren think about giving a gift each night, whether it's donation or giving, thinking of a friend that you want to give a gift to or a family member, so that it's as much about giving gifts as it is about waiting to receive one. And how do you make that part of the celebration?
There's a couple awesome things in the chat. Lee added to discussing articles in a magazine, it looks like, called The Week Junior. Also tzedakah being a good opportunity for tzedakah. And then Merle added, I'm assuming for Hanukkah activities, baking Hanukkah cookies. And then Helen talked about getting tickets to age appropriate plays and concerts. Blue Man Group, oh my God, yeah. Classes, swimming lessons, gymnastics. Anyone else want to speak up out loud on video about some of the classes that you found, or maybe some of the where you look for experiences like that to share?
Just unmute yourself, go for it.
Oh, and I talked about designating the 7th night for like a tzedakah night, and they get to pick their own charity, which is also a great way to sort of emphasize the freedom notions, like what charities are doing things that move folks towards freedom. Ooh, Merle said ice skating classes. I want to take ice skating. Merle, can that be my gift? Fantastic. Thanks, Merle. And again, yeah, feel free to unmute or let me know, raise your hand. Love to hear some of this in your own voices. Ooh, Children's Museum. Any other questions for Jonathan or for
I'm
your
just gonna
fellow
say,
grandparents?
we can broaden it out. Any questions you have about the kit or any of the activities that we offered this evening, ways that you might adapt them, or things that you're taking away, things that you're excited to try. Would love to hear what resonated for you.
Someone shared with me that when it comes to gift giving, they do something they want, something they need, something to wear, something to read. That was
Yeah. I have concerns, especially when your children are in an interfaith marriage and you're in competition with Christmas, and I don't want Hanukkah. And as it is, when I was in my 20s and part of Federation, a rabbi talked about how Hanukkah was nonsense to begin with, that it was a made-up holiday, that it was developed in the 20th century to compete with Christmas, and put a lot of thoughts in our head that there is no such thing as the oil. They were fighting. It was actually a civil war of assimilated Jews against devout Jews, and that they missed the holiday, so they celebrated it after the war, and it happened to be an 8-day holiday, which I can't remember if it was Simchas Torah or whatever. And he put a damper on the whole thing and started making, and this is part of a Federation retreat for young adults. And it started to make me think about it. But I will agree that my parents always gave us things we needed, like a pair of socks or a belt or something. And it was not gifts every one of 8 nights, or they were small. And they always gave bonds. And when I was a kid, they would put money away in bonds that now are coming due, actually. So they're really appreciated. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it because I'm competing with a set of non-Jewish grandparents who will be loading the kid with a lot of gifts.
Jacqueline, I saw that you wrote that you're planning a Hanukkah party with your mixed religion grandchildren. Do you have anything to sort of add wisdom-wise with Beth?
We are going to be doing that in a couple of weeks. Well, actually right before Hanukkah on the 17th. And it's funny because my daughter and my friend's daughter both married brothers who are not Jewish. So our daughters are married to these 2 guys that are Catholic. So we call ourselves, the other mother and I, that we're makatunim with each other. So we have to try really hard to find something that we can do with our grandchildren. They're all very young right now, but we're going to do an annual party every year so that our grandchildren get to see how amazing Hanukkah is. And it's kind of like someone was just saying about, we felt like we were in competition with Christmas, and we didn't want that. We want the kids to know their background and the beauty of Hanukkah. So we're going the extra step to do that each and every year. But I'm taking a lot of notes so that I can bring some of this stuff to our party soon.
I think, Beth, you raise a really interesting question and a point. I think it's a good idea to reframe it not as competition and value add of part of their identity. And we have this piece of the kit that I love about all of the different celebrations and traditions this time of year that celebrate bringing light into the world at a dark time of the year, of thinking about how we share light and spread light. And that there are resonances between the holidays, and bringing that out rather than feeling like it's in competition. I also think that you could sort of pick apart and analyze any of our holiday or anybody's holiday narratives, where the origins of the holiday are, how they've been changed. That's certainly true of Christmas as much as it's true of Hanukkah. And it's more about what it means to us today, how we take what we can learn from these stories and these traditions that have been passed down, and what do they mean for us now, rather than getting into a conversation of what really happened and which part is true. Or and we also give a link in the kit about the real history of Hanukkah, and the legend of the oil and where that came from, and ways to think about it as part of our tradition and celebration, rather than interrogating it in that way that some of us, were taught. And I think that there's beautiful ways to connect the holidays and think about the theme of Hanukkah about being proud of who you are. And for those who have grandchildren as part of homes with multiple faiths, how you be proud of that identity, that you share multiple traditions and that they're all part of you, and bringing out that theme of this holiday as one of the things that it celebrates. So yeah, I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
If I may toss in there, Beth, we live in a very non-Jewish neighborhood, so we were not competing with grandparents, but we were competing with everybody. And I decided I wasn't going to compete. So first night of Hanukkah, they'd have to do a treasure hunt to find their gifts. We would invite their little friends, and we would play games. And that was the different thing. They didn't get multiple gifts. They got one gift, which they had to hunt for. And then we played games, and their friends loved it. In fact, one little boy who was an altar boy in the Catholic Church went home and said when he grew up, he wanted to be Jewish so he could celebrate Hanukkah, because we gave of ourselves. It wasn't just giving them a gift. We also had someone come dress up as Shalom Aleichem and read stories.
And on that beautiful note, thank you to all of you. Thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate it. We are going to end a few minutes early with our deep gratitude to Jonathan for sharing your expertise with us again. And just so you know, Jonathan will be back for Purim, for Pesach, Passover, and for Shavuot. So keep a lookout. Our next live event will be 180 degrees and entirely different, actually not so entirely different. It's about how to talk to your teen grandchildren about anti-Semitism. So it's not at all entirely different. It's just for a different age group, for preteens and teens. And you will hear about that from us. So to all of you, Zoe, thank you so much for helping us facilitate. To all of you, and thank you so much for joining us, for giving us your time. And Jonathan, Shmidt Chapman, especially to you. Thank you, as always, for your loving expertise and sharing your ideas with us. And to all of you, have a wonderful evening.